everyone, and welcome back to All Things Frugal and Fabulous. So today I wanted to do a video that was requested on how I store and preserve or keep my food so that I don't waste anything. So I have quite a bit of notes that I made. I went through my whole kitchen and I wrote everything down that I could think of, and yeah, so let's get started because this might be a bit of a longer video. So number one is I keep all my leafy greens in an airtight container with a towel or paper towel or a napkin, whatever you have, to absorb any of the moisture, and then when that towel gets a little bit damp, I replace it with a new dry one. Number two, separate bananas. So what I mean by that is normally most people buy their bananas in a bunch. I take all of them apart and then I just put them all on the counter like that. You can take it even a step further by covering the tips of each banana either with plastic wrap or aluminum foil, or even, a piece of tape or whatever, but for some reason covering the tips keeps them from aging even faster, and I have tried this and it does work. Number three, keep berries and grapes sealed in an airtight and keep them unwashed until you're going to use them or until you're going to serve them. The only exception would maybe to have cut up a few of them for, immediate eating that need to be eaten within a day or two. Because as soon as you wash and cut them up, they will go bad very quick. So for example, I have my strawberries. These were clear strawberries and they're still good. And I put them in this glass jar with a lid, and then I put a towel on the bottom so that I can replace it if it gets damp, and I just keep it upside down like that in the fridge. And now it is Monday today, and I can't remember, I think I bought these on Thursday of last week, and they are still good. Number four, separate any bruised and aging apples from the rest and eat those ones first. This is huge, okay? Also keep them in a cool, dark, dry place. This can be in your fridge, this can be in a pantry, this can be in, a cellar if you have one. I use plastic bins because I really have a tiny kitchen and not a whole lot of storage. But how I store my apples is after I've gone through them. If you buy your apples in a bag, make sure you take out all of the bruised ones, because if there's even a small bruise, that bruise will make the rest of your apples go bad. Honestly, this is so true, and I can testify to it because it has happened to me. And when I take that one apple out, the rest of the apples will literally last you for months, okay? So I make sure they're all dry, and I wash them too, but I make sure that they are completely dried. I make one flat layer, and then I lay a towel on top, and then I make another layer so that they're not touching each other, and then if I have more, then I do another layer, and I keep them dark, cold, and dry, and this will keep your apples for a very long time. Number five, keep the fridge a little cooler but not too cold, because you don't want your produce freezing, because then unless that is your intended purpose of having frozen produce, you don't want it freezing because then it turns into mush. So yes, make sure it is cooler so that your milk and your yogurts and stuff like that will last longer than if your fridge is warmer. Number six, keep the foods that need to be eaten faster in front or near visibility so that you can see them. And normally if you see something, the things that you see first are just what you're going to eat, and you don't forget about them. So yeah, this is things, especially like leftovers, berries, grapes, keep those all within reach. And then also corn on the cob and fresh peas should also be stored near the front of the fridge because they don't like to be too cold. So yeah, keep those near the front because it's less cool by the doors than it is in the back of the fridge. Number 7, eat foods that age faster first. This makes perfect sense, but things like berries, bananas, lettuce, melons, cucumbers, tomatoes, all those kinds of things should be eaten before your apples and oranges and those kind of things that will literally last you months. So, number 8, pretty much the same but opposite. Save the fruits and vegetables like apples, citrus fruit, and potatoes, and that kind of stuff for later, after all of the stuff that would go bad first. After those have been already eaten, I mean. Number 9, put any limp veggies and even grapes. I've tried this with, if they are like carrots, lettuce are really big ones. The green onions, can't think of anything else, but anything that can absorb water like that and is supposed to be crisp. If you put it in water, it'll rehydrate and make them more crisp again. I got this lettuce on clearance, and this one was a little bit limp, so I put it in here, and now it is perfectly firm again and crispy. Number 10, freeze any fruits or vegetables that you won't eat in time. So if you are looking through your fridge and you see, oh, well, you know what, these strawberries or these tomatoes are getting a little wrinkly, freeze them right away, unless you know you're going to eat them that day, but most people don't like to eat wrinkly fruit anymore. So just freeze them and use them for smoothies. You can make them into jams, you can make them into all kinds of different things. You can use them in baking, but yes, just freeze them and use them for something else instead. Because just because you can't eat them fresh anymore doesn't mean that they have to be thrown away. Number 11. This is going for dried goods now. Store all your dried goods such as flour, noodles, cereals, rice, sugars, beans, lentils, etc. in a clean, dry, insect-proof containers in a cool, dark, dry area. This can be in your cellar, your pantry, in your cupboards, even under your bed. I have stored things under there before when I didn't have space anywhere else, as I also have 2 big plastic bins that I keep in my kitchen because I have very limited storage, I guess, in my kitchen, and I don't have a pantry or anything like that right now. So I keep all of that stuff in there dark. Number 12, store your onions and garlic. You can store them either on your counters if you have space or in your cupboards. I just keep mine on the bottom of my cupboard, and I have had my onions. I'm just using the last one, and I've had them pretty much from, I think, December, January was the last time I bought onions, and I'm just using them up now, and it's April already. So they can last a very long time. And even if they are sprouting, that's okay. Just cut them off and use the onion or the garlic. Number 13, once you do cut up your onion or your garlic though, refrigerate them and use it up within a week or 2 because they will go bad. You can't leave already cut up stuff on the counter. I will tell you that it will rot within a couple days after that. Number 13, keep your potatoes in a cool, dry, dark place away from onions, okay? This is really, really, really key to keeping your potatoes lasting a long time. If you keep your potatoes in the same general area. You want to keep them in 2 completely different areas because the gases from the onions will make your potatoes go bad. I know this sounds weird, but it is very true. I used to store my onions with my potatoes in a bin, and I couldn't understand why my potatoes were going bad because I was keeping them both in a cool, dry, dark place, but they were still going bad. Anyways, so keep them in separate areas. Number 14, tomatoes, apricots, avocados, bananas, kiwis, mangoes, nectarines, papayas, peaches, pineapple can all be kept on the counter. That was lots. Place your tomatoes upside down if it's on the vine though. I don't know why, but it works. And also when these fruits get really, well, when they're ripe and ready to eat, I preferably like to eat my fruit cold, so I will put them in the fridge and then I will eat them once they're cold. Ooh, sorry, my legs are falling asleep on there. Yeah, so I do refrigerate them, and also by putting them in the fridge will keep them from ripening further, but just make sure that you eat them right away or you freeze them. Number 15, this is for dry goods again. I always keep my extra coffee, my oats, and flour in the freezer, all in airtight containers, obviously. And this, I have the ones that I have out that I'm using, and then I have, a lot of times will buy stuff on clearance or whatever, I will take the extras and put those in my freezer, so they will last actually quite a long time. I know some people think that flour and coffee and oats, they don't go bad, but they do. The taste changes if you don't, if you've had them in your cupboard for like a year. It just changes them. It doesn't taste fresh anymore. Number 16, rotate your pantry and your freezer. So if you're buying lots of clearance meat or lots of meat, lots of vegetables and stuff, and you're stacking your freezer up, and then all of that stuff on the bottom, you're constantly using the stuff on the top. So 2 years later, the same stuff is on the bottom and it's still not getting used up. So make sure that when you are putting new stuff in, you're kind of removing the stuff from the bottom and putting that on the top so that you will use that before the stuff on the bottom, or somehow organize your freezer so that you can easily access all of the different things. I might do a whole nother video on how I do my freezer, but that's another topic for another day. And also do regular checkups or check-ins on your fridge, like every day or every other day at least, to make sure that things are getting eaten, nothing is going bad, things are getting frozen or preserved in you can either can them or dry them. I preferably like to freeze. It is easy, it's fast. That was my next tip, is number 17. Invest in a deep freeze. It is the easiest, the fastest, and the cheapest way to preserve food, I find, because I mean, I guess dehydrating, but I prefer freezing. I'm not big into dried fruits and veggies. I just like them frozen. I have done canning. I didn't do any this last year, and canning would be a really good way to preserve food if you are prone to power outages, because well, freezers rely on electricity, and if you're constantly having your electricity go out, then that might not be the best way. But for most areas with backup electricity, a deep freeze is really, really, really great. You can freeze almost everything. I have a whole nother video on that. I'll try to link it in the description box below. Number 18, if your fridge has the freezer portion on top, like the regular old-fashioned kind of fridges where the freezer's on top and the fridge is on the bottom, avoid placing anything that can freeze easily, like lettuce, tomatoes, grapes, those kinds of things, again, because they will turn into mush. And like citrus fruit, they don't taste good once they've been frozen and thawed out. So I have done this in the past where I just placed my lettuce out there and then it's completely frozen and I couldn't eat it in a salad anymore. So do not do that. Number 19, keep track of what is going. I should put this as number 1, but if you are having issues with food wastage, start keeping track of what you're throwing out. Literally, write it on a piece of paper. Say I've thrown out, 5 bananas, a whole bag of apples or oranges or whatever, and write everything down. And then also write down what you're running out of. Say, well, I bought grapes and they're literally gone before, the end of the day, or strawberries, or whatever it is that is getting eaten right away. Write it down. For 2 reasons. First, you can adjust how much you buy, so you can buy less of the stuff that's going bad, and then you can buy more of the stuff that you're running out of right away. Number 2, adjust how much you will keep out right away, like fresh stuff that you can eat, and then also you can adjust what you put away right away and preserve it for later. Number 20, get organized, have a system. If you, again, are someone who has a lot of food wastage, this would be very good to do, to at least start doing when you go grocery shopping. You have a list of everything that you bought, is your receipt, write it all down, and also do an inventory of all the food that you have. This will keep you from I thought I had that, and then you don't have it, and you've already started making this meal, and now you have to go out and buy something because you thought you already had it, and then it will also keep you from forgetting that you had something and then it going bad. So checklists are great. When you use something up, cross it off, and then you don't have it anymore. And then what I used to do is I would just write everything down, and then I would, and then the crosses. So if I had 5 of them, then, you can do it however you want. That's just how I did it. I'm not very good at explaining things sometimes. But anyways, next one, 21, is freeze leftovers right away if you know that they won't be eaten in the next few days. And this is great if you make a lot of food and you have a whole extra meal or extra meals. Then you can freeze it right away, and then you can have that meal the next week, and there you have an easy evening where you don't have to do any cooking. As well, sometimes we're left with such a measly little bit amount, and really you can't add that into anything. So what are you going to do with a small handful of rice, or maybe a handful of peas, but everything else is gone? I like to do something called, it's a surprise bucket. I just keep a bucket in my freezer, and anytime there's just a little bits, I put those little leftovers in there, and when the bucket is full, I make a surprise stew or soup. This might sound gross to some people, but it's always turned out very well for us. I freeze-like things, and freezing fish and hot dogs and that would not taste good. But if you have an idea of the things that would go good together, like rice and hamburger or beef or pork and corn and pretty much every vegetable go very well together. And so you just have to kind of use what you like to taste and go from there. Number 22, avoid grocery shops if you know you're not going to be home very much during that time frame after. So if you, for instance, this weekend is Easter weekend. If you know you're going away and going visiting family or whatever, and you're not going to be home, don't go shopping this week. I'm sure you can live off what you have in your fridge and your pantry and your freezer for the next few days, and then just go grocery shopping when you get home after the weekend. And the last but not least, just a few tiny random tips is freeze yogurt. If you either bought too much because you bought it on clearance or you forgot about it, and you can enjoy frozen yogurt. I mean, it doesn't taste exactly like the frozen yogurt that you buy, but it's still pretty good. And we also freeze them in like popsicle molds and enjoy frozen yogurt on a stick. Or you can throw it in smoothies. Like, it is a very nice, tasty frozen treat. The next tip is keep smaller amounts of bread products out and freeze the rest. So, for instance, if you know you only eat about a half a loaf a week, take half a loaf out of that bag and put the other half in the freezer, and you can put the one half in a different empty bread bag or whatever that you already have and do it that way. Or you can just keep the whole bag of bread in the freezer and just take it out, and you can put it in the toaster if you enjoy toast, or I mean, you can even thaw it in if you have a microwave. We don't, for like 5 seconds. Or even I've made sandwiches with frozen bread, and by lunchtime it's thawed out and it's like having fresh bread. That way you know your bread's not going to get moldy. And yeah, and another tip is if you have the 2 little ends of breads that no one likes, freeze those right away, and then when you have a fair bit amount, you can make breadcrumbs and then you don't have any waste. So those are all my tips on how I store and how I preserve, and tips on how I keep from wasting food. I hope this helped you. I apologize for the very long video, but I thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, hope you have a frugabulous day, and as always, leave me anything that you think is a good idea in the comments, and I will look forward to reading and hearing from you. And as always, love you. Bye. See you next time.